Hello there guys, what is going on? Daniel Childs back here again for another video. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're keeping safe wherever you're watching this. It is time for my Chelsea predictions for 2023. Putting my reputation, which may not be that strong anyway, on the line for the next 12 months. Some big predictions, some bold predictions, some ones that I do have some confidence will come to fruition over the next 12 months. And it is always interesting as a football fan kind of looking at the calendar year in terms of reviewing it, but also predicting it, because we have the rest of this season, which ends in May. And then, of course, the season starts again in August. So, over 12 months, you have 2 seasons effectively, or it goes over 2 seasons, and a lot can happen, a lot can change, especially if we look back to 2022 and the madness that was 2022. If you want to listen to my review of it from a Chelsea perspective, link in the description box below for my podcast, please go and check it out. But if you're new around here, please do give the video a like if you're excited for Chelsea in 2023, despite some negativity. And if you want to see some more Chelsea videos, news, reviews, previews, all of that good stuff, got guests coming on the channel as well, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content as well. And at the end of this video, make sure to go into the comments below and give me your Chelsea predictions for 2023. But let's get into them. Rather than just reading them out one by one, I will give us a brief explanation, sometimes a little bit more for certain ones, maybe some of the more unpredictable ones, really ones that I'm not quite sure. I'll sort of explain my thinking on them. But let's get into my Chelsea predictions for 2023. The first prediction is, I think, going to happen in the next few weeks. Enzo Fernandez will become a Chelsea player in the January transfer window. Chelsea in negotiations with Benfica for the Argentinian midfielder who's just won the World Cup. I do think it will get done because it kind of needs to for Chelsea to improve what is such a key area in central midfield. The second one regards to the Champions League, Chelsea into the last 16 with Graham Potter. I think Chelsea will beat Borussia Dortmund over 2 legs in the last 16. I'm being optimistic, maybe others won't. I'm excited to play Borussia Dortmund finally in the Champions League, but I do think Chelsea can get to the last 8 once again, and we'll see what happens from there in the Champions League. I predict on the goal front that Raheem Sterling will end this season, 2022-23, as Chelsea's top goal scorer. I'm not entirely sure how many, and we know from Jorginho in 2021 it could be as low as 7 in the Premier League, but I do feel Raheem Sterling scoring goals consistently enough for Chelsea based on our recent record up top, and despite criticisms around his form, he still is someone that does produce on a pretty regular basis, and I just think he'll score enough goals to be top of the pile at the end of this season from a Chelsea perspective. On another thing, sort of looking at the whole year, I predict that Kai Havertz will end 2023 with 20 Premier League goals. So that's across the whole calendar year, not just 22-23 or looking at the start of next season. I think Kai's got it in him. It's just about the consistency now. But I do think if Graham Potter trusts him as Chelsea's number 9, I think there is potential there. N'Golo Kante will play under 20 games this season. I just can't see him playing that much, even when he does return, if it is, say, at the end of next month in February. Chelsea are going to be so protective of him naturally. And, I just could see him maybe getting another setback, or at least just not playing enough games. So I think under 20 games, which will be the lowest for him as a Chelsea player so far. Another midfielder, Jorginho, will leave at the end of this season when his contract expires. Although we've heard some talks about him extending, I just think this is the right time for Jorginho to move on. And it just feels like a natural endpoint, especially as Chelsea begin to revamp that area of the pitch. So I think Jorginho will be departing. Graham Potter, this is a bigger prediction, will remain as Chelsea head coach for the end of this season. I could have gone for the end of this year, but I just, maybe I'm not as confident about that, but I do think he will make it to the end of this season. And of course, a lot depends on where Chelsea finish at the end of this season. And, despite some of the criticism recently, I do hope that Chelsea's new owners are looking to build for the longer term, but it's massive pressure. But I do think Graham Potter will improve Chelsea, depending on how much and just depending on what that mood will be, say, at the end of this season. I think he will be Chelsea's head coach at the start of next season as well, and that, of course, is in 2023. But Chelsea will not qualify for the UEFA Champions League next season, which to some could see the end of Graham Potter, but I'm going to say finishing 5th. I'm going to go for that prediction. I just think looking at the start of the season, my prediction actually, I think when I did the Premier League ones was Chelsea 4th. But looking at what I've seen so far, the surprises of, say, Newcastle, how well Arsenal have done, and as well, I think Man United looking a stronger team, Liverpool a little bit less strong, but have still got some good quality. I think for me, the thing for the rest of the season for Chelsea is to not let it drift, is to still be in the competition or still be in that race and show some improvement. But I do think Chelsea will miss out on the Champions League places heading into next season. This is a transfer one. Finally, Declan Rice will become a Chelsea player in 2023. His contract is running down. It looks like this summer is finally going to be the one where West Ham are going to have to sell Declan Rice. They cannot allow him to walk out for free, and with a reported fee of around 70 million, I think finally he will become a Chelsea player. Even without Champions League football, I just get the sense that it's been destiny for so long now. That may change, as we know. It may be a little bit unpredictable, and Declan Rice may go somewhere else, but I just think Chelsea will have enough to convince Declan Rice to sign for the club this summer, and finally Operation Rice will be completed. Cesar Azpilicueta will depart in the summer after over a decade at Chelsea, many of those years as club captain. I also think Hakim Ziyech and Ruben Loftus-Cheek will leave Chelsea in 2023 as well. Both players, I think, could see themselves going out, or at least seeing themselves having a better future elsewhere. I think in the case of another player I'm going to predict may depart this year is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I just don't think it's working at Stamford Bridge, and I could see a scenario, especially with like David Fofana coming in, Christopher Nkunku coming in this year, and Amanda Breuer set to return from injury later on this year. Aubameyang, it may be time to cut ties quite early into his contract. Chelsea will appoint a sporting director this year, and I think that sporting director will be named Michael Edwards. Chelsea made a massive play for him last year, although he wanted to sort of take a break after his incredible work with Liverpool. But I do think he will become available again, and I think Chelsea will go back in for him to join this team that Todd Bowley is building, and I think it'd be a really shrewd acquisition. Mason Mount will sign a new long-term contract. We've had Reece James sign the contract. We've had many sort of rumours around Mason Mount and whether the contract situation is kind of getting to a dangerous point. But I do think in 2023, Mason Mount, who's a Chelsea boy, who's done so much for the club already, I think will sign a brand new deal with the club. A long one. I think it could even match Reece James' 6-year contract, and that would be quite exciting. In the case of young players out on loan, Levi Colwill, I think, will be recalled into the first team squad next summer. But I also think that Ian Maatsen, who's doing amazing stuff with Burnley in the Championship this season, I think he will be sold. Mark Cucurella, Ben Chilwell, I could see both those players staying on. So I think that Ian Maatsen at this stage of his career may look elsewhere. And I think there will potentially be suitors, even if Burnley come up to the Premier League and Ian Maatsen could go there permanently. We'll see. In the case of other players, a trio here, Gab Slonina, Amari Hutchinson and David Fofana, who recently signed, will all make their competitive Chelsea debuts in 2023. And the final two predictions here, we will see plans for a Stamford Bridge redevelopment in 2023. I think this may come in the second half of the year. I can't see it happening before the end of this season. But given how big a part it played in Chelsea's takeover last year, and Todd Bowley, his Clearlake consortium as well, really sort of putting that into plan and thinking about the stand-by-stand redevelopment and what is the future of Stamford Bridge going to be. Are Chelsea ever going to move out of Stamford Bridge? I do think we will get some early plans like we got many years ago when Roman Abramovich was still in charge. Now, will that go any further? As we have seen before, it's a very tricky challenge to kind of, I think, navigate. It's one of the biggest things I think this new ownership is going to have to overcome in the next 10 years. But I do think we will see some talk or some plans. I'm going to go for plans. I'm going to put my neck on the line. I think plans that the fans will be able to see for how Chelsea could redevelop Stamford Bridge in the upcoming years. And the final prediction is relevant to this season. I predict that Thiago Silva will be named as Chelsea's player of the season for 2022-23. I've said consistently on this channel, when I'm being a bit of a hypocrite now, that I think that Reece James was right in line, but his injury problems continue, and I just think at the end of the season, Thiago Silva, hopefully remaining fit himself, as a top performer for Chelsea on the pitch, and just a leader, someone who is just incredible, defying age. As Thomas Tuchel once called him, the Thiago Button of football. I think Silva will deservedly win the title. I think he probably should have won last season, and I think that will go to him this year. So those are my predictions. Quite a few in there. there. I'm sure many of you disagree. I'm sure many of you have your own. This is where you go into the comments, give me your predictions, give me a list. Tell me about my predictions. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they stupid? Let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button too. As I've already said, go on the podcast feed. You can listen to my full review of 2022 from a Chelsea perspective, as well as all the other content. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. Follow me on TikTok at SonOfChelsea as well. And I will see you again very soon. Wishing you a very happy 2023.